there really are very few conscious thoughts while playing. At least for me, if I'm in the state that I really feel is most natural, then the brain really isn't active in that sort of way, which I think is better, because otherwise it's probably an interference and perhaps even a sign of lack of concentration. But it's almost as if you enter that, well, already before you start playing, you enter that state of intense concentration, which is already going towards meditation in a way. You get into that, whatever you call those, the sort of the alpha phase of the brain. So everything gets still, and still but pregnant. Fortunately, my parents introduced me to a number of different extracurricular activities for me to choose from, and nothing really clicked. And then they took me to a music course, a very basic music course for very little children, 3 and 4, and I was already, 8. And there was a lady in charge there who would, play little things, and I remember a little Schumann piece. And have the children sing along to see if they had, if they had a good sense of pitch and a good ear. And then she also had a set of drums, and she would then play something else and ask the children to sort of, use the drums and beat along to see if, if they had a sense of rhythm. That was sort of the most basic approach that you can think of. And after perhaps, 2 or 3 sessions of this, she spoke to my parents and, expressed her opinion that I probably had a natural ability and should start an instrument. And of course she recommended the piano, saying, well, it's the most well-rounded, self-sufficient instrument of all. And so, that would definitely be my suggestion for the start. Anyway, she can always switch later on. And so she kept me, after that session where she decided to speak to my parents. And again, it felt like one of those sort of, totally organic developments where all of a sudden I knew this was going to be part of my life. Playing a piano, the instrument himself, is, I suppose I could have said herself, but no, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a himself. There's always a sensation of physical pleasure. It is perhaps more, I wouldn't say more intense, but there's something more acute, because all of your senses are sharper in the concert experience because of the adrenaline rushing through. And of course, adrenaline is a great resource mobilizing agent. And so So everything feels. I mean, there's an urgency to everything that you feel and think during the actual concert. But otherwise, the intimacy of the physical relationship to the piano is just as beautiful and rich and varied in a practicing context. It's always interesting when you speak to persons who are not really aware of what a musical instrument is about. They always are sort of in disbelief that there should be such a great difference between two pianos that look identical, and they're completely, the variability in temperaments is tremendous. I mean, no two pianos are alike, and they each have their way of responding to various players. So it makes it even that much more dynamic and interesting. Because the piano has to be its own being. It can't be a tool. It has to be a work of art. For the dialogue to be interesting, for it to be stimulating, for it to be expressive and surprising. So that's really what it takes, and you can't just be working with a tool. And so it is anything but. They each have a personality. Classical music is, and I think it has a lot to do with education, because I'm always saddened to hear people say, oh, I don't know anything about it, so it's not for me. Well, you don't need to know anything about it. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that knowledge doesn't increase anticipation and enjoyment ultimately, but all you need is to feel, and to allow yourself to feel. And if you can do that, which of course everybody can do that, then classical music is probably the richest form of music in terms of renewed pleasure and surprises of what you can find. But it is demanding. It's not something that brings necessarily instant gratification, and it requires investment on the part of the listener. You can't sit there completely passive and expect it to wash over you. I mean, it can do that, but it's not always the case. Then you get a lot more out of it, depending on what you put into it. So, I just can't. Of course, I can't imagine, my life without it, and so I have trouble envisioning people living a life not knowing what this is like, and how exhilarating it can be, and stimulating, and how it's a way of really, if you experience something that engenders emotions in yourself and others, it is really what enables you to get out there and be the best person that you can be, because it helps you see not just the way things are, but the way things could be. And once you can actually feel that, then you can do it. So it's, to me it's vital.